Pop quiz, hot shot. There are 3 former Ohio State captains on Luke Fickell's Wisconsin staff. Go.
Luke Fickell.
Nope, he's not listed as an Ohio State captain.
Tuffrey Borland.
Tough Borland.
Kenneth Guyton.
Yes.
And Jonathan Simon?
Chris Worley.
Chris Worley.
Is the director of player personnel at Wisconsin.
I don't know why I thought John Simon. I forgot Chris Worley.
We can find John Simon usually on this field over here,
so
to our right.
I was going to say, I hadn't seen him in a while. Maybe Luke scooped him up. That's interesting. You know what else has 3 things? Thursdays.
Oh, what?
Crushed it.
I cannot believe how that worked out.
Dude, you walked right into that.
Welcome to the beat. It is a 3 Things Thursday. And I was actually surprised because Google AI would tell you Luke Fickell was a captain. I said, that doesn't seem right because they used to only name 2 captains. And I had to go back, scroll through Ohio State's record book. No, Luke Fickell was not listed by the program as a captain here, which is remarkable.
It is pretty remarkable. And Luke put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this place. He knows what it takes to succeed in a place like this. And so it's not surprising that he would turn to some former Ohio State players for that very thing. It is surprising that a guy like Tuff Borland, who he didn't play, or he didn't recruit, didn't coach, didn't do anything, would be on that list. But Tuff was destined to be a coach from the minute he started to, we're playing football. So
yeah, a lot of familiar faces is the point there as we get within a couple days of Ohio State's trip to Camp Randall Stadium. They are nearly 4 touchdown favorites to go into that game, but there has to be something that has Jeremy Birmingham or me, Austin Ward, concerned about this matchup. So thing number 1, what is there for Ohio State to be on alert about as they go play Wisconsin?
I don't feel it this week. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I don't.
That's the worst sign in America.
I think this is a situation where had Ohio State not suffered such a weird last 8 minutes of the game against Illinois and a weird 6 minutes in the middle part of that game against Illinois, that maybe I'd be more on alert for like a sleepwalk session this weekend. But I can't imagine that's going to be the case. As we record this on Wednesday afternoon, I'm looking off to my right. I see the Buckeyes out there practicing.
You're not supposed to look over there.
I am, though. So I think this team is going to be dialed in and ready to go. Now, the question is, are you healthy? How many guys this week can you go into this game and say, if he's not 100%, maybe we can take him off the field and do a little road load management just to give people some chances to rest with the off week coming? So I guess if I'm cornered into picking something that I'm looking at this week, guess what it's going to be? The same thing it's been every week that this question gets asked. How does the run game look this week against a team that had been, until 2 weeks ago, the number 1 ranked run defense in the country? I don't know where they're at now after the Michigan game and the Iowa game, but
now 5th in the Big Ten and I believe number 19 nationally. They've
so
gone up to
good.
97 yards per game. Now, Iowa ran for over 200 yards last week.
Okay, so that's a lot more than 53.
Yeah.
Ohio State without we're here, again, last week as we did 3 Thoughts Thursday, we said, we're going to learn some things on Wednesday night. We're going to learn some things tonight. We're going to see for sure exactly what the Bo Jackson situation looks like, what it might be. But either way, Bo Jackson or no Bo Jackson, the run game, the efficiency, the explosiveness for Ohio State has not been there. If there's a concern I have, it's that Wisconsin scores early somehow and puts Ohio State in a spot where they have to be one-dimensional because the run game has been a little bit inefficient. But it is hard to see a game script that works in Wisconsin's favor in this game. And I don't mean to be dismissive of a game I'm not going to travel to for the first time in a long time, but this is a bad Wisconsin team. Like a bad. Are they back to their first string quarterback or are they on their 5th string quarterback?
It doesn't matter. None of them are good.
Right. So they brought in Billy Edwards from Maryland. He got hurt early. They played 3 other quarterbacks this season. It is a comedy of errors up there, or not for Luke Fickell. I don't think he'd think it was funny, but it's been pretty bad. And again, it would take something we've never seen in Ryan Day's tenure at Ohio State for this game to be interesting.
Yeah. I feel like I'm stealing from your playbook, and bear with me.
Please do.
Brim Cantori. If that weather gets a little bit wonky, that's another first timeness for Julian Sayin to check off the list, right? We keep going through this, and I think, I have said this maybe 3 or 4 weeks in a row, but it's like, this is the first time he's done that thing. This is the first time he's done this other thing. And he's only started 6 games at Ohio State. And it doesn't even matter what the forecast is.
Well, no, I'm curious though. We're going to find out for America. This is your 72-hour forecast ahead of the Wisconsin game. 60% chance of rain on a 70-degree day. Winds 5 to 10. So it's windy, not rainy, only supposed to be raining in the morning, early afternoon. Doesn't seem like it'd be a problem.
I don't know. Football could be wet. The forecast could change. Those rain clouds could stay over there. The last time we were up, it was overcast and
cold
and a little bit, unseasonably cool. So all of this is going to be some of the first time. Is it something that I would say is a concern? No, because everything that Julian Sayin has faced for the first time, he has dealt with pretty close to perfectly.
Yeah.
I think last week, we talked about the Illinois game, and I think there was a little bit of pushback where it's like, well, that was the worst of the 6 starts. Yeah, I think objectively and statistically, it's pretty easy to make that case. Subjectively, it was like it just felt a little bit off. But also, the other 5 have been insanely, ridiculously good. So one of them,
he was still PFF's highest graded Big Ten quarterback last week.
Yeah, he was still very good. When we say that he had his worst game, it doesn't mean it was bad. No. But I think that that's the next level of this, because Wisconsin's defense, I believe they're going to have a good plan. They have a pair of really good linebackers,
including one that Ohio State actually wanted in this building.
Yeah, and so those guys are playmakers. I still don't think they would start at Ohio State, but they have been among the most productive tacklers. They've been disruptive, and I think that Luke will, especially if it gets into a situation where the weather is adverse. Like Ohio State hasn't really proven that it can lean on the run game. This is a week, I think, going into the off date where you'd like to really show something with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, let Julian Sayin go win that game. And that's not to say either that Ohio State believes or that Ryan Day expects or wants to blow out every opponent. I think he's made it pretty clear that that's not the expectation that he has every week. But I agree with you. You look at this Wisconsin team on paper, there's not a way across their roster or any personnel group that they have a matchup that favors Wisconsin over Ohio State. Ohio State should win this game comfortably, but you are on the road, and maybe the weather becomes a bit of a nuisance, and that throws you a curveball that you have to address. I still think they would.
Yeah, I think if you're Ohio State, in some ways, obviously you see the talent disparity, you see the opportunity to go up there and work on some things. This is not like last week. I was pretty mad after the game against Illinois and said you can't use games like this to tinker. You can't use games like this to experiment. You can use the Wisconsin game to do that. And I think if you're Ohio State, you would probably go into Madison, Wisconsin this weekend being quite happy if the first timeness of a poor weather game for Julian Sayin, a California quarterback who's not experienced playing games in that kind of weather, you'd rather it happen now or at Purdue than in Ann Arbor on November 29th. So, I think in some ways, if you're Ryan Day, don't you say, well, let's see if we can turn on the rain machine a little bit. Let's see what happens, because this is a game where you should probably be able to mitigate that no matter what. But I think if it happened, there's I actually had already written this about tomorrow on Letterman Row on Thursday morning. I'm doing my Birming thoughts, things about the game. One of the things I said is that lessons or blessings. So for a guy like Julian Sayin, if you get that opportunity now,
you should have said lessons or blessings.
Oh, maybe. It's not published yet as we talk about it, so I can add an apostrophe there and give it a little bit of a drawl.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid, but I think that
hit that twang.
Yeah, this is I would welcome that if I was Ohio State heading into this week, because it's going to happen eventually. So why not give it a go?
The other part of that, and it's a little bit twofold. For one thing, for me, is because I mentioned it last week, and Ryan Day's relentless battle against complacency for Ohio State, and I feel like he's winning it. And he didn't even the fourth quarter on Saturday against Illinois was not. No one's going to remember it.
Yeah,
and I think that I was actually impressed how quickly he was able to move on from it and flush it and move on. Well, I don't know what he's saying on the practice field to our right now, but even if we just focus on what he said publicly into the press conference microphone, it's very different from the way that he reacted to the Minnesota game in a 39-point win. And I believe that that's smart, because I don't think maybe when the score got out of hand against Illinois, Ohio State did let complacency creep in just a minute. And I think when you're looking at the scoreboard and when you're understanding the situation that the game is over and you're just trying to get out of there, I wasn't that worked up about it Saturday, and I'm still not today. I'm sure that Ryan Day turned on the film and said, this is the effort. When you put backups in the game, you're expected to meet the starting standard. The standard is the standard at Ohio State. But I think, in my opinion, whether he was that same way privately as he was publicly or not, I think it was smart to be like, you know what, guys, We let a little bit one get away here. We're not going to let that happen again. It could cost us at another time, but feel really good about going on the road and building such a wide lead and dominating for such long stretches of the game that you were able to have a little bit of fun on the sideline on Saturday and do the cha-cha slide and get some smiles out early. Like, I'm okay with it. I don't think he has to be nonstop, ultra intense, uber competitive Ryan Day every single second of the season.
I believe, and I can't prove this as we stand here now. Now it's in my head. It's something I'm going to try to ask Ryan Day either in his lightning session on Wednesday night or as he walks off the field. I wonder if his reaction, the lack of push from him when complacency finally got a glancing blow against this team for the first time this year. I wonder if his reaction was muted because he walked into the locker room and saw a mad team after the game. And so he realized, I don't need to do this because my team's already doing it.
And that's what made him smile.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I could get behind that.
So I think
also there was a turtle there.
There's a great wooden turtle. But I do think, like, when you start to see your team take on your personality and you start to see your team actually apply the lessons that you've been trying to instill in them for the last 10 months, you don't need to go to the microphone and bash them publicly. You don't need to then turn around to the media and try to get a message out that way because your team already got the message. They were mad when they won by 18 points on the road instead of in the locker room dancing and jumping around.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe it's a situation where Ryan Day can look at it and say, hey, our message is resonating in this team. We don't need to keep trying to harp on it publicly.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because
It literally just hit me. That's what Three Thoughts Thursday as on the beat is about. It's about digging a little deeper. It's about going inside the mind.
Well, when we do, which we sometimes do too much,
Stream of consciousness,
the psycho analyzation or vibe check with Ohio State, like, it is football at the end of the day, and we spend an awful lot of time like trying to break down Ryan Day's psyche. But I'm more fascinated by it this year than I've ever been. The last several years, we talked about the sort of dark place that he went to and losing his personality and too much maybe of his emotions were on his sleeve. But, and you and I both asked a couple coaches about this on Saturday, like before and after the game, where it's like, his message is so different and unique. And it's also got that versatility and flexibility. Like he's got a primary position and a secondary position, and he can go to this gear and that gear. Coming off of the national championship and the way that he's handled success, the way Ohio State is responding to the national success, which this was the first time with him at the top of that program. And a lot of these guys are back, and they've mentioned the moving up in the road in the front of the room and becoming leaders and wanting to win their own championship ring. Caden Curry talked about that at Washington, where he has been drawing the ring on his face paint. It's like he wants to win his own. It's like this has been more educational, and illuminating personality of the team. Like, it's fun to be around.
It has to be liberating as hell to be Ryan Day right now. If Ryan Day, this is the crazy thing. If Ryan Day had not made it to that Tennessee game last year, like there were a lot of people who didn't want him to, right? He would have walked away from this place like James Franklin is walking away from Penn State right now with $50+ million. And, you'd have some regrets, probably some disappointments, but you're 46 years old and you've just been given $60 million to not have a job. I think eventually he probably would have got over it. But now you see this free version of him, and it is allowing him to not feel the need to mute parts of himself, to not sit there and hide the uber competitive side of Ryan Day. But also he is like a genuine person. I think he's learning that you don't have to be one thing or the other to be an elite head coach. Like, you can be all of it. And there's a time and a place. And as long as that person that you're being is genuine in that moment, and your team knows it's not lip service, and your other coaches, and you know that you're not someone who's going to throw them under the bus if things goes wrong, that has to be incredibly liberating for a guy who's in his position, who's at the forefront of college football when it's changing day in and day out. And he gets to just ride the wave and say, whatever comes our way, I've got this here and we're going to be okay. And I think that is he wouldn't have got that chance if he didn't win the national championship, I don't think. And so now I think it's just great to watch him say, I'm going to take that chance and run with it. This psyche, this deep dive, the analytical thoughts about Ryan Day's processes are like way more interesting this year. Way more.
Yeah, and that extends to the team itself. Just watching the week-to-week development and Julian Sayin go through the first timeness, and Jeremiah Smith was already viewed by many as the best wide receiver in the country a year ago, but Emeka was the leader of that group a year ago,
yeah.
And now Jeremiah, I think we're watching him mature to a different level, and the frustration and the health setbacks and the extra attention on the field, I'm highly confident, like absolutely certain, to be honest, that Jeremiah's going to come out of that for the better, especially by the time that Ohio State gets to playoff games or talent-equated matchups, because this team is going to look different by that point. They'll also play different. Yeah. This stretch, we're having to view it and evaluate it in a different way, because you and I are not X's and O's aficionados in the best cases of circumstances, but that's not even the way that I think this team should be viewed right now, because they're showing this tiny amount of both the offensive and defensive playbook.
It's like that meme with the iceberg.
Yeah.
Like what you see, what the iceberg actually looks like. But like you see the iceberg, you're like, crap, I hope I don't run into that. And that's what opponents around the country are saying. But the ones that do are like, oh, it's actually much deeper and bigger and stronger than we thought.
Just wait until you see the full iceberg. It's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Did you, on Talking Tuesday this week, were you able to get further details from Television's Adam King about his concerns about Jeremiah Smith's hand?
No. But
add that to the list of intrigue for the eve.
You haven't been around the roster until they leave the field on Wednesday night, and I'm sure that we'll be, trying to get out the binoculars and walk up close.
I'll just ask him.
Just ask him.
Yeah.
I think would probably be the best way forward. All he said was, and I'll expound on that a little bit, was that they tried several different wraps on the hand and that he looked like he was flexing it a lot. Clearly, it's not something serious. I don't think it caused the drop on the deep ball where it looked like it could have been ruled a catch just as easily. Don't think it's a lasting concern, but he's under a microscope at all times, and that was the latest reminder, because Adam the King said, "Did you notice that?" I said, "No."
Jeremiah seems like one of the guys on this team who most needs the week off that's coming, however.
Well, okay.
So let's make that second thought.
Well, this is actually 3, because I turned the second one in and went to a much larger Ryan Day.
Who else needs a week off?
I would give Lorenzo Styles the week off.
Okay. I'm not saying Jeremiah shouldn't play on Saturday. I'm saying who needs to get next week.
But I'm saying include Saturday at Wisconsin for Lorenzo Styles. That would be, if you're asking me to make a coaching personnel decision, and I've not seen the diagnosis. I don't know it. I know that it is still the shoulder issue for Lorenzo Styles that he suffered. That was before the Ohio game, right? Or is that right?
It was in the Ohio game.
In the Ohio game, yeah. He came back from that. He played really well against Washington
and
Minnesota. We talked to him after the Minnesota game. Wasn't feeling any of the ill effects there. But if that's something that you can't ultimately repair in the moment, and I don't know that.
Actually, that happened in the Minnesota game. No, that happened in the Washington. Which game did that happen? Ohio, for sure.
After the touchdown he gave up.
Then they had the week off. Then we went to Washington.
He played in both of those games. Okay, and then, so if it's a nagging thing, if it's not, if it's something that required surgery, I think that would have already happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate on that, but I don't believe that anyone in the Ohio State secondary, the starting secondary, is absolutely necessary to beat Wisconsin and their anemic passing attack.
And it may be a game where, again, if Lorenzo is on the cusp or on the brink of being able to go, you might be better suited this week to let Devin Sanchez get another round of reps. He's going to probably spend some time one-on-one against former Ohio State receiver Jaden Ballard, one of the most athletic guys in the country. If you want to see how Devin bounces back against a guy that can stretch the field vertically and do different things, I think it might be a fun matchup to watch, to be honest. I'm not sure if we would see Jaden mostly against Davison Igbinosa or if they'd be on the other side, but with what we saw out of Jermaine Matthews in the slot last week, you should certainly enter this game going, whatever the case is, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you don't want to lose heart and soul pieces of your defense. You don't want to lose key depth, but Jermaine Matthews in the slot is a upgrade, and upgrade is not meant to be denigrating to Lorenzo. It's just a fact.
Yeah, but I think you have to be careful about that because the upgrade is specific to the slot.
Yes.
Because
not on the outside.
Because Jermaine is an upgrade over Devin Sanchez at this moment at cornerback.
Yeah.
And so that's I think the conversation tends to immediately go to who is better in slot and who's going to be more explosive. Right. And the answer is Jermaine.
But the question really should be, what's better for the defense in total?
And Lorenzo, I think the gap between the two, and Jermaine was amazing and awesome and forced 2 turnovers at Illinois, and that's why we're having this conversation. But Lorenzo was giving high-level play, and then Jermaine elevated it to here. Whereas, the margin, I think, currently between Jermaine and Devin at corner is much wider than it is between those two. So it's a different conversation. It's a great thing for Ohio State that they've been able to get experience with both, because this team still wants to play 16 games. They've only played 6. So there's going to be moments where they're going to have to move around the pieces in the secondary, and they're finding out a lot about Devin Sanchez now. That's going to pay off in December and January. I'm confident in that. Lorenzo is going to be healthy at some point. They're going to have different options where they can move around the safeties, where if they feel like there's a better matchup and they want Jermaine to be against 3 wide receivers sets, or more past UCLA, for example, fine. If you need to load up with someone who's going to be a sure-handed tackler in the box, Lorenzo probably gives you more options there with Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain at safety. So it's great to have those options. And for all the praise we've given the front lines, secondary, the depth was still relatively inexperienced.
Yeah, I mean, not relatively, considerably inexperienced. And I like when, as a coach or as a program, you are forced to find out how versatile your team is. I think it's a good, that's one of those serendipitous things where you're like, oh crap, this is the worst thing that we could have had happen. And then you're like, but it's actually turned out okay. It's not bad. And that's why, for me, the next thought, okay, we're just bouncing around here. This is a random 3 Thoughts Thursday. Let's assume Ohio State handles its business. They're 9-1 against the spread since losing to Michigan last year. Let's say they handle the spread. They're winning by 5 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Or the second half at some point.
Okay.
Which player inserted into the lineup and given extended playing time against the Badgers is in a position to most capitalize to turn it into a usurping situation where they become a starter and the guy that they're replacing actually loses reps to him? Or maybe not a starter, but loses reps to him.
Josh Padilla.
That's correct. That's the right answer.
I mean, I don't. Tegra has certainly, as Ryan Day has said, and we don't get the grade book, graded out a champion enough times that his starting job doesn't appear to be in any actual jeopardy, despite the fact that Josh Padilla and Ethan Onyanwa have replaced him in multiple games for drives. So this has continued to be a thing where that's the only position that you look at as being up for grabs. Could you make a case that when or if Edric Houston gets back in the short term that he can go supplant Tywone Malone as a starter? Yes. Yeah. But everywhere else, I'm not sure that exists. I think the only other option, and you mentioned this earlier on Wednesday before we were recording, that maybe that would apply to Mylan Graham and or Quincy Porter, if you're looking for the next wide receiver to jump in the lineup. Yeah,
and that's just because we haven't really seen when those other guys are in there, them getting the ball. As we were at lunch on Wednesday talking about this, if there's a large number of Ohio State fans that are speculating Brandon Inniss shouldn't be out there. Bryson Rodgers has missed the last 2 weeks, so that's part of this puzzle. But if the third wide receiver's job is to be out there and be a leader and be a blocker and be a rah-rah guy and be the glue, then Brandon Inniss is the only choice.
Yeah.
If that's not his job, then I'd like to see Mylan Graham get some footballs thrown his way. I don't think this is a situation where Quincy Porter really belongs in that same conversation because he is not capable of playing that slot spot. But Mylan Graham is, to this point, he hasn't been really forced to do it or tasked with doing so, or especially not tasked with the other elements of what the position requires. But this feels like the type of weekend to me where he should be seeing the football. And
maybe, but so here's the thing. As you're talking about that,
my entire goal here is to get you to pump the brakes on Mylan Graham. Go.
Okay, then
you have been cutting the brakes all year. Now I've
been out of control. If everyone is in agreement, America, you, me, anyone else, you want to see more explosivity from the run game. And if the hypothesis is 11 personnel is the way to do that, you're not taking Brandon Inniss off the field to get that done, because Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter or a healthy Bryson Rodgers aren't going to give you the wide receiver perimeter blocking that Brandon Inniss is. That's just a fact that we can't. That's inarguable. So you You can't get them both ways.
No, you can't. But you're going to see things this week. And again, Josh Padilla, where this part of the conversation started, like, he's played pretty well. He's given them something different. And I actually think all the conversation this offseason about Ethan Anianwa and Phillip Daniels and like who's going to be the starter at right tackle, Tegra Shabola, Luke Montgomery, they kind of avoided any of the conversation.
Just look over there.
Right? It was like, oh, these are our guys. And so it turned out that there was not any really discussion about that. And I personally believe from what I saw out of Tegra at Illinois in Champaign, I saw a different energy level from him. I saw a different passion from him on the field. I saw him getting physically pumped up after plays, which I hadn't seen from him much. So maybe the Josh Padilla push is giving him a little bit of that fire under the old tushy that you need sometimes in this world. And I'm all for it. I think that, for me, if you're talking other things I'd like to see, I'm tired of 14 personnel with 4 tight ends. What'd you say? How do we get 14 personnel without tight ends? Put Ethan Anianwa as a tackle eligible and make him a third tight end. Put Josh Padilla or move Tegra Shabola out to the right side and Anianwa on the left. And you can,
where's the old Bison package?
I want like the super Bison package.
Okay.
Because then those guys can still go out and catch the ball.
Oh, I don't know if that's
Hey, dude, have you watched Alabama, what they're doing with Caden Proctor?
I watched it not work.
He scored a TD. He's got more touchdowns this year than Brandon Ennis.
Wow. Okay. Well, I can't really argue with that. That's a stat. And we get into all of those. Well, sometimes on 3 Things Thursday, 3 Thoughts Thursday.
You hear that noise?
I hear crowd noise. They're getting ready for
pumped
Camp Randall as Ohio State continues to practice on a Wednesday night. Right now, though, it's Thursday as you listen to us on The Beat. Thank you so much for joining us, whether that is on 97.1 The Fan, YouTube channel there, 10 TV, their YouTube channel, 10 TV Plus, or if you just want the audio only, you can get that on Apple, Spotify, Roku, anywhere that you download podcasts. We appreciate everyone following along. One day closer to Ohio State at Wisconsin, 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. This has been The Beat. We'll talk to you later.